Hello, listeners. I hope everyone had a great New Year's, and I wish everybody good health for the upcoming year. I'm going to start off this year by talking about something I have spoken about many times before. However, it's always good to hear things again as a reminder, and there are also new listeners coming online all the time, and they've perhaps not yet listened to the entire back catalogue. So let's talk about intentionality and maybe psychology in fitness training. As usual, this has some element of something that I have recently experienced. So here's the story. A few days ago, I was chatting on WhatsApp with a friend that I haven't spoken to in a long time, maybe a few years. I asked her if she was still training in the sport she was doing previously and told me actually no, but she'd recently taken up CrossFit, and then told me the gym she was training at and how wonderful it is. I asked her where that was, and it just so happened that I taught a 2-day seminar at this gym in 2017. Now, the future does not resemble the past, but there were some things that happened at this gym that I found to be red flags. The first was that I spent 2 days explaining to all of the coaches there why to do lifts a certain way and not another way, and had a sea of coaches nodding at me in agreement and vigorously taking notes. Post-seminar, they told me how much they'd learned, and literally 1 week later, I saw a video on the gym's social media of them continuing to do things the exact same way that they'd been doing it before the seminar, which led me to ask some questions of myself. Questions like, why would a gym pay me to fly over, spend 2 days on coach education, only for things to change in absolutely no way whatsoever? And I know that for myself, when I get new information, I'm super keen to implement it. So why weren't they doing this? Secondly, it may very well be the case that they simply didn't disagree with what I was saying. So why not ask me at the seminar so that I could clarify why I was saying what I was saying? What's the point in nodding vigorously in agreement with me and yet secretly disagreeing? I even saw this at university recently, where one of my tutors, who I knew didn't agree with what was being said, was nodding her head up and down so much with what was going on that I was concerned that her head might actually fall off her shoulders. When I asked her about it, she said, "Oh, that's good. My masking was working and they didn't know." Now, maybe it's just my Asperger's, but I don't understand why people agree when they actually disagree. It undermines my ability to trust anything anyone says. If you can very convincingly lie in situation A, then I have to question your commitment to truth in situation B also, since your outward enthusiasm was actually identical. So, anyway, I come to a seminar to learn how to do things better, and then don't bother my ass to do those things better was red flag number 1 for this gym. Red flag number 2 was that not long after, they actually advertised that they were running a seminar. And guess what? It was on the topics that I had taught them in my seminar. So in other words, they were ripping off my content, but they were ripping it off after not implementing any of it, which blows my mind. If you thought it was valuable enough to teach it to other people, why are you not doing it yourself? Not okay. Anyway, this is the gym that my friend now tells me she's training at, and then goes on to say she might be heading off to find an appointment to see a physiotherapist or sports massage because she has some shoulder pain, because the exact same lift was in the training program at the gym 2 days in a row. And this is why I just can't with group training. Like, the number of times I've seen coaches literally just make something up on the fly because, they were on vacation and forgot they were supposed to write programming. They went out last night and didn't have time to do it, and so on. I've seen it loads of times. If I was a paying client, right, I'd be making the assumption that I'm paying for a program that was better planned than one I could literally make up myself by throwing some dice. I'm sorry, but if you're charging people $200 a month and the main USP is that you have a coach designed program, but then that program is literally the same 2 days in a row, or using the same body part 2 days in a row, I'd say this is a big issue. So I said, oh, okay, that's pretty interesting. Send me the workouts. So she sent them over, and yep, they literally did the exact same lifts, the clean and jerk, on a Saturday and then on a Sunday. You can't do this. I also want to say that these lifts, clean and jerk, are very technical. I personally would argue they shouldn't be part of a workout because when you get tired, technique is the first thing to go out the window. I don't think there's anything wrong with working clean and jerk in a technique session or a strength-driven session, but not as part of a workout. Now, what happens when people get tired in the clean is that people normally start to bicep curl the weight up instead of using the hips to drive the movement. So I ask her, okay, shoulder pain, is the pain on the front part of your shoulder, below the bony shoulder part, and above, the top of your bicep? She replies, yes, it is. Okay, well, this doesn't surprise me because the structures that are in that area are the bicep tendons. So by doing her cleans under fatigue, she'll have started to use the biceps, and then she would have been given this movement 2 days in a row. There's a high chance she has bicep tendon inflammation. So I explain this to her and say it's pretty bad. And, it's been a while since I've worked in a gym, and I'd forgotten how gym clients work. And it's the same way as anyone in any toxic relationship works: excuses and denial. Because her first response was to say, oh, it's a big deal. Not a big deal. It's just a niggle. I probably need to get stronger. Now, in my book, it works like this. If you walk into the gym pain-free, then perform a movement and walk out with pain, then it means that the movement you performed has caused an injury. If you've developed that injury because the volume or the load of the movement that injured you was too high, then this is the fault of whoever wrote that program or was coaching you through that. Nobody else. Gaslighting yourself that it's your fault you got injured whilst doing something inappropriate that someone else has told you to do is a sign that you are in a toxic relationship with your training. Your coach can be the nicest person in the world, but that's not an argument when it comes to poor program design, right? That's just like a straw man fallacy, we would call that probably, which is where you're creating a completely new argument and not just dealing with the one that's been presented. You got injured due to poor coaching. Simple. So she then says, oh, well, I don't really blame him. He's a really nice guy, and it must be really hard to write programs. Now, I have to push back on that, right? It's probably really hard to write a program if you literally have no clue what you're doing. However, it's not really that hard to write a program if that's your full-time job. Furthermore, I would argue you do not need to be a seasoned expert to know that if I do squats today, I don't do squats tomorrow. I rest legs tomorrow. And I think anyone could analyze that with no special knowledge. In fact, the very points that she's brought to me and the fact that she's telling me about these things means she knows that this is unusual and strange. Otherwise, she wouldn't be messaging me about it. But just like when people are in a toxic relationship and, they go and vent to their friends about it, then their friends give them advice. Oh, you need to leave your partner. They're no good for you. They don't take the advice. Oh, no. They're not like that all the time. They were really nice to me this one time a couple of years ago. It's just like the training version of Stockholm Syndrome. So what's going to happen when she goes to the gym today? Because literally, if it's anything that involves bicep tendons, then this is a recipe for disaster. And actually, I'm going to look this gym up right now on my Instagram as I'm doing this. This is not even in the script. I'm absolutely freestyling here. Right, let's see. Boom. Let's have a look and have a look at their workout for tomorrow. Okay, so on a 30-minute running clock, you have to run 800 meters. Then in the remaining time up to the 15-minute mark, you build up to your 1 rep max deadlift. And then at the 15-minute mark, you run another 800 meters. And then the remaining time, build up to your 1 rep max bench press. So typically in the deadlift, people will use a mixed grip. That mixed grip is where one hand is, palm up and one hand's palm down, or we call it supine or pronated grip. And usually that supine side where the palm is facing up, that can and has been known to expose your bicep to problems. And the next thing is your bench press. So when you're lowering the bench press, you're using your bicep and you use your triceps when you're extending your arms. But when you're flexing your arm at the elbow rather than extending it, which is the bench coming down the way, you are using your bicep. And to me, again, this is just crazy. It's like if you want to build up to a 1 rep max deadlift, first of all, I don't think that anyone should be doing a rep max as part of training, because a rep max is testing, not training. And I certainly wouldn't try to build up to a rep max of anything after going for a long run, because again, you're going to be super fatigued. And then the workout tomorrow is clean and jerks. So they did clean and jerks on Saturday, clean and jerks on Sunday, then they're going to do it again on Tuesday. This literally makes no sense. Wednesday's workout, clean and press. It's the same thing. You see, this is why I just can't with this. It's absolutely insane. And there's literally no way that coach could justify this to me. Because even if you wanted to get good at the clean and jerk, that doesn't mean you do clean and jerks until your arms fall off, right? It's nuts. Complete recipe for disaster. However, in a group training scenario, what are you going to do about this? You don't show up to a restaurant, right, having booked the set menu, and then start making a la carte requests. Similarly, you can't show up to a group class and start asking them for personal training. And this is why I just can't recommend group training, unless it's a group training thing where low skill movements are involved. Because a few weeks ago, I made an episode about the efficacy of training with others and how the fun and enjoyment of that helps with the stickability. I should at that time have added the caveat that I think this should be in a low skill environment, or if it's in one where it's super repetitive, you don't do it every day. Like as a karate guy, I wouldn't recommend anyone go to karate every single day, because you're probably going to be doing kicking every single day then. And this could probably overtrain the musculature around your knee, because kicking is all knee extension. So I think I've only mentioned it once or twice over the years that I've been hosting this show, which is over 2 years now. But if you think that you would like a bespoke program and maybe some coaching feedback to help you honor your own training intentions and staying away from overuse and overtraining, then please reach out to me on the email at the end of the show. I do always wonder why in nearly 2.5 years, I've only had 2 inquiries about training. And one of them, I spent an hour on a Zoom call where the woman was telling me about how to train. It didn't even make any sense. But that's what happens sometimes, right? Some people just have main character syndrome. Anyway, I'm definitely looking for, I wouldn't say a couple of new remote coaching clients, because frankly, I would take 1,000 if I could. But hey, I'm at university full time and I'm literally a poor student. So whilst I don't have the time to go out and work full time as a coach anymore, because I am now studying full time, I certainly do have the time for a couple of remote coaching clients. So if anybody was interested in that, then please reach out to me at getfitguy@quickanddirtytips.com. Happy New Year, everyone. If you want to just say hi, also feel free to send me an email. I haven't had anyone trolling me for a while, so, kind of miss it. Get Fit Guy is a Quick and Dirty Tips podcast, thanks to the team at Quick and Dirty Tips, Morgan Christensen, Holly Hutchins, Brandon Getchis, he's the big shot, the director of podcasts, and Davina Tomlin, and of course me, Kevin Dunn. If you have a question, voicemail me, 510-353-3104. Email me, getfitguy@quickanddirtytips.com. Check out quickanddirtytips.com or check out the show notes in your podcast app.